In the last video, we covered an eyelash of the changes that are coming in this new Infinity patch. So in this Lord of the Rings extended edition video, we are going to go through all the little bits and pieces, or at least try to cover everything that's coming in this patch, because there is just so much. And there's a lot of things that are a little bit confusing. So this will really help you understand what's coming, how to implement and use the new changes, as well as all the quality of life things that will really bring Infinity mode into a much higher sort of tier, more polished off game. And again, it's only early access, so there should be tons more to come, hopefully, because this game is probably one of the best games of the year. If you are playing it, you know what I mean. But anyway, let's go into a deep dive with this upcoming patch. Funny thing is that we're going through the patch updates, but this is almost like a tutorial in itself. So if you are checking this at a random point, this will definitely have some information for you, so it's worth sticking around. Now, if you do want to access this patch or the notes, I'll put a link that hopefully will work into the description that will take you to the instructions so you can access the test environment and the patch notes yourself. Thanks everyone for supporting and watching. If you do get anything out of this and you're new, consider liking and subscribing. I'm Sinkiller. I appreciate it. Goes a long way. Let's get into it. So how are we going to do this? We're pretty much just going to go top down and just try smash it all out. This might take a little while, but here we go. Let's do it. Okay, so the first one is optimize on the edit mode. Greatly change the edit mode interface, including the operation, experience, and information displays, while adding some convenient construction options. So what this is referring to is all these lovely new informational little bits and pieces, like, you know, changing this into free mode, giving the camera a nice shake to let you know that you've just changed your mode. We've got the building compendium now, which will help us over time. At least it's a little bit clunky right now. Doesn't take you to the exact thing you clicked on, but it takes you to this area where you can go brush up on the stuff that you've learned or you're not sure about. But all these other things, like adding these little icons here, just all the little touches with the buttons. Anyway, they've basically just redone this UI to some extent to make this fantastic, much more usable. Can now move this, hide this. So there's a lot of little bits and pieces here, like they've moved the craft button, and there's some other important things we'll cover in more detail that I've mentioned specifically. One being the batch construction. Now this is the holy grail of updates, because holy bejeebus, if you've ever built a base in this game, it's like watching paint dry. You have to place every little individual freaking piece one by one. Not anymore. So let me show you what this does. Do note, this is all been built in the previous version. You won't be able to do half this stuff now, which is good because it was breaking the game in ways it shouldn't be broken. But batch construction, check this out. Okay, we hold shift and see how it says count 1. If we move our mouse, we can now build multiple things in a batch, basically. And we can actually control the count as well. I think I've got mine set to 100 by default. It's 100 as well. But let's just go to a brand new, fresh, clean slate. So we'll go new layout. And this is going to just save a lot of time. I'm looking forward to going through and doing a build video where we go and actually just build a whole new base. Because look at this. Look how much time we're going to save. Oh, I've only got the batch 100. Let's quickly change the batch to 100. Now, in order to do that, we need to go escape out of this madness and go into our settings, into gameplay. Scroll down to the bottom and we'll have batch construction and multiple selection limit. So we got 300 here. 300 is pretty good. You really won't need more than that, I can't imagine. But now we've readjusted that. So let's go back into the build and see how this will work. We'll just grab our little tile, hold shift, boom. A little bit of lag there, but that's fine. Douche and douche. Okay, it's not working because this mofo is here. So it's already on some tiles. So it won't be as straightforward, unfortunately, at least not yet. So we'll just throw this guy down anyway, and we'll go down to here and we'll just do this one. But you get the idea. How much time saving will this be? It's just going to be fantastic. Beautiful. This is a huge change. So you want to build a pillar base. Boom. You can get all your pillars all lined up depending on how you are layering your base. But when it comes to the pillars, it's the same sort of deal. We'll just throw them down like this. And then what you do is you would do the same thing again to get that nice little close together. But how much time is that going to save? Hours. So that change is beautiful. Love it. Let's keep going. There is one quick note with the batch construction is it only works horizontal. We can't do it vertical. That makes sense. That'd be a bit harder to do. I don't know how you would implement something like that. Maybe down the track, but building vertical, you do it a lot less. Normally it's like layered rather than vertical. If you're building stuff vertical, I don't know. You must be very few use cases for that. And one last thing with the batch command too, when it comes to weapons, you can only do it horizontal in certain directions. I'll show you what I mean. So say we've got this guy here. We can do it that way, right? But if we want to go, say, across here, you know what we'll have to do? We'll actually have to grab it and orientate it this way and then drag it across. So you'll have to do that with all the different weapons. You can't simply hold shift and then go in random directions. It's only horizontal to the way the weapon's facing, if that makes sense. So horizontal, if I want to go the other way, I need to reorientate it and face the cannon the other direction and then go across. Cannot do it vertically-ish. You know what I mean? So this next one is also very handy. It's the multiple select, move, remove. Now, I had a lot of trouble with this at the start of it, just didn't seem to work too well, but now it works every single time. It's just a user error. All you gotta do is press and hold shift initially, and just like anything, you drag and across and you can select multiple objects. Now, when you want to move those objects, just simply hover your mouse over one of the highlighted objects, click on it, and you'll be able to move everything. It's very important that when you do click down on this is you aren't holding shift. So we press shift to engage the select all. See, I'm just pressing it now and the mouse is indicating with the plus symbol. So I'll hold it, drag, take off the left shift, and then click one object within the selection. Just click it once and hold your mouse very still, and then you can pick up and move everything. Now, if you want to delete this all, you can just go X, boom, and I believe you can also Control Z to just undo what we've done as normal. But let's say we do that again. We select it all, we click one thing. We can also go Alt, which will put everything back into its place. So we'll just do that again. So I will click on one object and say move this around and just go Alt. We'll just sort of undo that last little thing we just did, which works out to be pretty much the same thing as Control Z within this functionality. Now, the other cool thing we can do now is we can lock components. So this will be handy when we're needing to select very specific things and say delete a bunch of them on a multi-storied building. So let's go to a multi-story building because that's a really good example. Let's go have a look. Okay, so here we are. We have a multi-leveled story building. Now, let's say we want to delete all the damage multipliers, or at least try to delete all the damage multipliers on this entire base. What we can do is we can go to used components. And you'll notice down on the bottom right hand corner we have locked and unlocked. What we can do is we can lock everything that we don't want to delete or select. So in this instance, we only want to be able to select the damage amplifier. So what we're going to do is I think we click unlock and just click damage amplifier, and that's actually going to lock everything. And then this is the only thing that is unlocked currently. So then if we go to component storage, and if we hold shift and go across the whole base, or as much as the base as we can, you can see here we've selected all the damage multipliers on the base. And then I can just go delete, boom. Do you know how much time that's going to save when you need to make adjustments like this, or you need to batch delete a bunch of different things? It's just a really, really neat functionality. Now, if you want to then turn everything back on, we would just go back to use components or select something different or get everything unlocked. You would just click lock. They might change the idea, and then if you give it a moment, everything will be unlocked again. Now, if we want to just target individual things, we can just click on the things that we are after to lock individually, or alternatively, you can just go unlock, give it a moment, and then everything will be locked. And then you can actually just click on the few things you want to be unlocked. Now, there is some performance issues here, but remember this base is a really big base and it does push it to a bit more of its limits, but it gives you an idea of how this really handy functionality is going to operate. So the next one's just really straightforward. It is just a redirection to craft. Right click on a component in the list to redirect to the craft page. So let's see how I understand this. I think we can just, okay, so actually this is really cool. Okay, so we can right click and also lock the component this way while we're looking at the component storage. And you can see here, the symbol here is identifying as locked. So that's really cool to know. So we'll just undo all that. So we'll just go unlock or lock. Can't remember which one it is. It's lock. Everything's unlocked now, except for this one, which I manually locked in the component storage. So be mindful, locking on the component storage overrides using the used component. So what we'll do is we'll unlock this component and then we'll go craft. And that's a really nice, easy shortcut. So we can just go straight into the crafting area and get going, escape to head back. And we also have this craft button here, which will probably be mentioned somewhere in the notes. So we won't cover that again, but you can just hit craft there. So this next one is tutorial and tips. More tutorials and tips for the edit mode instructions can be found in the left bottom corner. In the edit mode screen, you can jump to the in-game wiki. So that's just referring to that building wiki that you see down here in the bottom left. It needs a little bit of work. So if we click support and stability, it will load us to, it loaded us to support and stability. That's really nice. Some of them I don't think were working. So let's go to say config. We'll click on config. Hopefully it'll take us directly to config. Okay, it took us to photo mode. So a little, there's a little bit of mapping that that needs to be adjusted, but for the most part, it's going to get there and it's going to be perfect for those newcomers. So the next one is we've optimized the operation experience, added some shortcut keys such as tab button to switch between edit mode and config mode, optimize the basic operation mechanisms, including attachment and rotation. So there's a little bit more behind this, which we'll explore in another platform, but quickly we'll just look at the tab button. That's just very simple. We've got a tab button now, which will just jump us between the edit and adjust, and there'll be some little minor changes. As you know, this is in the test environment, so they'll probably move that tab over so it sits correctly and not over the text, but it's a very minor thing. However, this next one, in terms of how they've changed some of the functionality of the connections, is kind of a big deal. I didn't want to save that. Oops, oh well. So this little bit here, optimize the basic operation mechanism, including attachment and rotation. So it sounds like it's a few little words, but it's a huge change. Now, they may cover this in more detail in some of the other changes, but at least when I first read that, they're talking about how the connections actually operate now. So before we could do all this crazy weird stuff where we could press control and orientate our tiles to connect to one specific connection point, this sort of structure wasn't really intended, at least my understanding. So what they've done, they've just basically fixed a bug where the way you attach things now is going to be much more restricted as sort of intended. So no more of these wacky looking buildings. It's more just attaching them just in a way that is actually logical. But a really good example of this is to use a ramp. So say this ramp here. So in the previous build, we could get the ramp and a utility tile and actually rotate it so it looked like this. So it was horizontal, which only connects to basically one pin connection. Now it's basically pretty much impossible to do that. In reason, you could try say something like this maybe and then get one like that, but in terms of getting your utility tiles to be easily attached like as seen here is not a thing anymore. So my understanding of what that they're saying there is that they've changed a lot of the mechanisms and the attachment and rotations of utility tiles and buildings and everything, which we'll cover in more detail because there's some good pluses to it and maybe some more negative things that need to be a little bit more refined or worked out potentially. Need to play around with this a lot more to get a better understanding. The other really big aspect that they've changed, which I think kind of links into that little sentence, is how the control button functions. As mentioned, when you hit control, you could angle the tiles and connect to one single pin. However, now with this new patch coming, the control button functions completely different. There's some plus and minuses to it, but it's working more as expected or intended. Okay, so let's go through an example. So what we can do is, let's say we're trying to place this 406 on here and we're having a little bit of trouble. What we can do is we can press control. What control will do now is going to ignore all the snapping. So what that does is it allows us to sort of sit the object where it roughly is going to snap without it clicking into all the different spots and throwing out the actual position you're trying to get to. So this is really helpful because now we can sort of sit it, say here, and then it didn't connect. I had it sort of in the wrong spot. I could move it. I could move it and say, get it right there. It's still not right. This isn't the best example at all, but you get what I mean. This will come in handy. I've definitely come across scenarios where being able to ignore a lot of the pins so you can actually look at the pin you are snapping to. The only trouble with this, right, is that the pin that I'm going to snap to is the one where my mouse is. And the biggest downfall with this connection points right now is that there's no way for us to orientate which connection point our mouse is focused on. Because say if I want this connection point to be right on the corner here where one of the other connection points is, there's no way to do that. So it's always going to be kind of tricky in certain situations, even with the new control function of snapping things into place. Whereas I definitely think having an option where we could press a button where it's actually going to click through the different connection points. So our mouse will be exactly on the connection point that we want, which will then make it so much easier to connect things. But again, that might be really hard to do. Definitely one thing that's still going to make building very finicky to an extent. It's definitely supremely better than before, but something we're going to have problems with. Whereas previously when you held control, you would actually get a bit more control over connecting it to certain points. So it is a give and take. I see what they're trying to do. It just maybe needs a little bit of tweaking and it'll be perfect. But let me know what you think about the new control function in the comments, because it's kind of debatable now if it's any better or not. In my mind, it is. It's basically fixing a bug because before it was a bit broken. We just need to be able to actually perhaps control the pin that we're trying to connect. That way we can orientate buildings much easier instead of always always just being forced onto one particular pin. But we'll move on. Stability, mechanism, and operations. Structural components deployed on the ATC are considered stable and supported without a mandatory need to be connected with the slots. So all this simply means, or is referring to, I've just jumped into a new area, is now that is all your panels that are placed on the ATC, which is this thing here, not your control tower, but the actual thing on the platform. All these will be supported. So you can place them by themselves. So to put it simply, everything built on this first ATC layer will be considered stable and supported. So that's the main thing. So it's just going to help with things like when we're building multiple pillars upon each other or building up, it's going to actually provide the support we need. Whereas in other cases, I believe this would have been a lot more difficult to manage as you would have had to build specific ways. So it's a small change, but it's actually quite potent. Everything on this ATC now on the first very ground level is supported. So a nice little touch there. It does have quite profound effects really. So it's nice to see. That's going to help with the building process, make things a bit easier. So this next one is a huge change. So we're going to go over this in a bit more detail, but this is the Promethean core optimization. So this impacts your recovery day and the Infinity Siege mode. So we'll jump into a recovery day scenario. I'll show you what happens there. And here we are. We've got some nice little fire effects in the distance there, but now, if you remember, or you definitely will remember, but see how the cores now, we don't actually control these areas. We're going to need to build on them. So for instance, if we want to actually benefit from getting extra gear from these Promethean cores, we can go build core and it's going to set up a little base here, which is really cool. It's just like what it was before. It has a little gun on top, but what this will do is it's just going to force the drop pods to be further away like they normally would if you controlled all these points. So there will be some more noticeable differences, particularly for the infinite mode. But as you can see here, we can then build this core. And this core, I don't think it's really going to push them much further out. Because this is the exploration end day, it probably ain't going to push them much further. They're pretty much set spawns by the looks of it. So when a front line or that Promethean core is standing, the enemy drop pods will be pushed back, their drop spawns. Now this will definitely be applicable on your maps like the snow map where you have like a much further spawn point. But I don't think this works too much differently in the desert area. So something to keep in mind. We'll check out the infinite mode, but before we jump over to something else, we should just cover. So another thing we should cover while we're here is just the turret override. So turret override is going to do a few different things, and we have this table here to tell us what exactly it's going to do. So the duration here says it is 15 seconds to get a attack bonus of 300% on top of the normal damage and even the damage multiplier, from my understanding. Some of these do incur in ammo costs. So the machine gun, the bottom machine gun will have a +1 ammo cost, whereas things like the CIWS, so none of these will have an additional ammo cost, bar the machine gun and the bottom machine gun. But you can see here the CIWS, the Type 30, will get a 500% current attack increase, and that's going to last for 15 seconds with a cooldown of 60 seconds, but a much higher power consumption of 50. So these are going to be very potent in your exploration day, allowing you to be able to get a lot further and do a lot more damage potentially with a much smaller base, because you'll be able to buff up your towers temporarily. It's going to be fun playing through this again with a small base and seeing how potent you can make it using some of this new functionality where you can actually boost their power by pressing on your turret and then clicking overload. And then same again for the smaller towers. Not all towers will have that. Obviously your Hellfires probably should not have that, and same with the bigger, more advanced heroic towers won't have it. But keep in mind, now if you want to unlock this, so the level 1 is unlock research after clearing the border woodlands on difficulty 2, so very early on. Turret override level 2, this is just unlock after you research turret overload 1. So very easy to get, very nice change. Gonna be cool to play and muck around with this. So coming back to this, we can see that the front line has been destroyed. So we can press Z and it will build it again. So we can then continue our fight and push some of these guys back. Now the Promethean core change for the infinite mode is going to have by far the most biggest impact, I believe, and add just such a huge element of additional strategy. You're going to have to think about how you're going to manage expanding while having a huge base that's chewing up lots of material. Going to force you to mine a lot more, take the resources on the map. It's really just going to make the game sort of play a bit more intentionally instead of being able to just sit back and be AFK with your big base. You're forced to now engage, try take territory, try manage your ammo loaders, and at the same time, try gain as much ground as you can, because you can get so much good, crazy, heroic gear if you have all 3 Promethean cores dropping stuff all at once. So each time you go to the next wave, you will get 3 Promethean cores dropping things instead of just 1. So that is going to be huge, but it's going to be very, very challenging to do this now. So, the strategy, some might just try rush the very first one and take control of that as quick as you can. So it'll push all the pods right back, and then you can try box them in at the front. Some might consider getting miners out quicker and mining all the material around you as fast as you can to then try expand. But it's going to be a really difficult balance. So for me, I'm going to have to go back and pretty much I will keep this base where I've deleted all the damage multipliers because it's going to consume too much material and ammo. But this is going to be a lot of fun, particularly when you have a group of people playing. So it's going to be much more of a team co-op sort of experience, your infinite mode, because you're going to have to be managing a lot more aspects to this game, through this mode. And the crazy thing is, so in the infinite mode on the hardest setting, you build one of these cores is 1,000, so and 150 power. So that's quite a substantial lot. So right now, technically, I'd be able to build my first core all the way out here, pushing the next wave back. You could get your mates and suppress it. But anyway, we'll come back and talk about this a lot more. I won't show you having all 3 cores dropping stuff, but that is in the notes. At least my understanding is we'll get tons and tons of stuff if we can maintain all 3 Promethean cores. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Keen to get some gameplay of that, and I'll do a video on that soon. But we'll keep moving on because there's so much to go through. So the next one, loot spawns of points of interest. So they've rearranged the loot spawn positions for all points of interest. Advanced material now show in a much more reasonable position in a relatively stable way. Players are more likely to loot advanced materials in landmarks now. So this is a really nice change. Again, they're really trying to make the whole loot experience much more bountiful, decrease the amount of times we sort of need to do it without completely removing it from the game, because it's a really fun core aspect of the game. It just needs to sort of be a bit more tight and less repetitive, and they're doing that by making it just much easier, increasing the spawn rates of things, and now the actual logic behind spawn positions is going to be a bit easier and closer. So if you're wondering what landmarks are, it's just when you go into your tour mode and you're looking at your map. So for instance, we go woodlands, we go click confirm, select our difficulty, and then we jump in and we'll see the tactical map, and these are the landmarks. Okay, so now we're up to all the outpost changes. We covered this in the previous video, so if you're already know about all this stuff, just skip ahead using the timestamps. So first off, we have the new assault component, the rocket array. Now you get that by unlocking and researching city ruins on difficulty 1 and having the mine launcher already research. That will unlock the rocket array. The thing we have to keep in mind with the rocket array is it is a manually loading system, or a system that we have to load using Control Z or by walking up to it and going load shells. So you can manually do it or just in command mode. We have a few different options. Once it is loaded, we can set it to auto fire, which then is just going to sort of take care of itself and manually target and auto target anything within range. We have the configure, again, has quite a good range of 12,000. We can select the different targets. Cannot target missiles, obviously, being a missile projectile itself. Now we do have the option of shooting one shot at a time, which you can see here indicates the number of how many rounds is left, also indicated over here. So quite nice range and a good area of effect. So quite a nasty little piece of equipment. It's got 20,000 damage just on its base, which is higher than the Hellfire, but at quite a exuberant cost to actually maintain this bad boy. So if we go Control Z, we have a 60-second cooldown to reload. So there will be a little bit of micromanaging. This may change over time. This might be able to get fed shells from the autoloaders in time. I'm sure that's how it will kind of work, which will be freaking unreal and neat. At least I hope that's kind of the intention. It would be cool if we can get these automated as well, just to change up the meta. Having a whole base of these firing rockets will be freaking wild. So as mentioned, it's got an auto fire. We got a manual fire by pressing and selecting the bombardment location. We do have a manual fire under FPS mode, so let's check that out. So we can actually go in and control it. Oh, that is cool. Check this out. It's got a really nice angle too. This is nice. So this is one of the few things we'll be able to actually go in and use ourselves. That is freaking wild. How much fun is that? I didn't realize that. That is a freaking cool exploit. Look at that. We'll be able to target pods with this bad boy. So can I reload while I'm in it though? Okay, so I'm see, that's a bit of a problem. When you're controlling it, you can't reload it. You'd have to exit and then reload, and then would have to load the shells and then go back into control. A little bit disappointing there. Maybe that will change over time, like I said. Probably will, but this is so cool. Wonder how high you can fire it. The animations look really, really nice. That is very, very cool. I mean, there may be some issues You can see here, like, I'm getting a bit squishy with some of the other towers, but it's actually quite reasonable considering how close everything's built. So nice job there. Oh, there also is a bit of a zoom just by right clicking too. Just notice that. We covered the electromagnetic cruiser cannon. So you will unlock that basically completing the current campaign, is my understanding, because the unlock is the Earth United Army mission. I think that is the last mission from memory. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But as we've seen, it is an absolute weapon. This is going to change the meta. It's far superior to your traditional cruiser cannon. This will be something that you'll definitely be considering upgrading as you get into your end game and building your infinite mode base. They take shells just like before, and a similar sort of thing, consume a lot more shells with the damage boost. Now the cosmetic chair, let's go check that out because I haven't actually sat in that just yet. So that'll be a bit of fun. Next, we just need to be able to crack open a beer and we'll be set. Just get a little bit of XP boost or something like that while everything's going on, sitting in a chair. Yeah, so I believe my chair, oh, did I not put the chair down? Okay, sorry my friends, we did not put the chair down. I must have reverted that save, but that's okay. Anyway, you do have a chair, you can sit down in it. It's very, very nice. And just in case you didn't know, you get that in the Snow Ruins on difficulty 1. Then there's the 1 meter conveyor belt. That's very self-explanatory. We won't go into that. The main thing to take away is that you will be able to research the 1 meter conveyor belt after you've been able to reach the conveyor belt, which is sort of your mid-game from memory. New structural L-shaped barrier, not much to that. We won't worry about that. But key takeaway is you'll be able to get that once you research the barrier. So that's quite early game stuff. They say here it suggests to be placed on the diagonal edge of an L-shaped floor. Someone explained that to me in the comments. I'm not too certain. So the new support facility, which is the spring trap. So that's something you will build and then you can get access to that, which we can't just check just yet. But basically you'll be able to deploy it like your artillery or some of those other things you can get. One of the key takeaway for this is you'll be able to research it after you get the vertical springboard. So we'll be able to deploy a facility, the spring trap in Battlefield. See if we can do that now. I'm pretty sure I built that. Maybe I did undo the changes for the base. Not 100% certain. We'll see after this countdown. This wave just mentions that enemies who step on it will be injected into the air. There is this other idea where you unlock research for further upgrades to enhance it with freeze, vulnerability, and a damage amplifier. So this is going to be really interesting. I'm keen to see this in action. I believe we'll be able to freeze enemies when they touch it or get on top of it. Or there's the vulnerability. Not so sure what that is. If you know, let me in the comments. Then we got the damage amplifier. This could be something you apply to your mechs and to your guardians. So this might be quite a potent little mix here. We'll see if we can have a look. Unfortunately, I do not have it yet, but pretty self-explanatory. Next thing, which is pretty freaking cool, which I've been waiting for, is the support guardian. This thing is basically an auto loader. It's going to auto pick up ammo boxes and replenish ammunition for support units and turrets in nearby. So basically it's like a mobile auto loader and is equipped with a repair turret so it can repair all the nearby buildings and units. So it's a little potent little beast. This thing is going to come in handy so much. You'd have them all over your base, constantly repairing everything. And I'll show you what it looks like. So if you want to build something like this, we can select on this. Now there is another change where it has rally points. Rally points work now. So what we can do is we still have to manually, we can't auto fabricate guardians yet. Maybe that'll be down the track. That would be kind of cool if you could somehow select it. So whenever you have enough material, it will just generate some guardians. But for this, we got this bad boy. So we'll just click Control V or press on it and then we'll be able to jump it, get it to jump. One thing I've noticed is that they've really improved the bugginess of your guardian launches or your manufacturers, so it's much more stable. This guy was trying to get to that rally point, but because he is on the platform, he didn't get there, so we just need to jump him down. But he would obviously be walking to that very location if I had launched him onto the actual sand. But this guy over here, so we'll just walk him over to where all the other, and we just lost the core, but what we'll do is we'll walk him over here and we can put him on. So right now he's not doing anything, but if we click auto, and we better get some ammo for it as well, so we'll just craft some ammo here, and what we'll quickly do is we'll grab him and we'll get him to pick it up. So what we got here too is we've got the repair and mod, so we need to turn that on. We need to go to configure, and that's how we can actually turn on the heal. See, look at that. Look at the range too. Isn't that freaking cool? It looks like the best sort of sci-fi, healing some mechs from a mad distance. Absolutely crazy. Now we can also get it to pick up ammo, perhaps. Yeah, it's picked up the ammo. So we'll just show you that again. So if we click Z here, it's picked it up automatically. How freaking awesome is that? So now we have this whole other way we can use these drones and really have like them going back and forward from the base, picking up ammo dropping it off in the front line. So there's going to be some really cool instances of seeing these in action, particularly supporting your mech warriors and your guardians. So keep in mind, it can only hold up to 4 ammo boxes at a time. You may need a few of them, but it's going to be certainly worth the investment. Next, we have the changes to the missile silo. So they've added 2 new missiles, which I'll show you in a moment. So we click on the missile silo. We have 3 new buttons. Now the descriptions haven't been updated just yet, but what it is we have the cryo missile, which deals the ice damage, cryo damage to enemies that are nearby or that are hit. Then we have the dismantle missile. This is really clever. Now this one over here is going to dismantle the items and transfer them into materials after hitting. So we're going to be able to use this to mine things. So this is a game changer as well. I really like this. So what we can do here is we can press C, and let's see if we can get some material from hitting this thing over here. So we'll fire it off and hopefully it will land. Yep, there it is. And a bit hard to tell. We'll just turn all the auto loaders and everything off, and we'll need to get some more power. We'll try. Okay, so we'll try that again. We'll get the homing missile. We'll see if we can hit this. Well, I'm hoping this would work. It might not be what it considers a material, but we'll just fire it off. See if we get any increase to the material. Okay, it doesn't work on that particular thing, but we'll fire it on some of the things that have dropped down here. Maybe that's what it can do. It does say it dismantles the items nearby, so it must just be specifically things like this, not actual trees or anything else. No natural resources. Okay, so let's try that again on this material. See if it works. Whoa, yes it does, and it's instant. Holy moly, this is gonna be cool. This adds, man oh man, this patch adds so many layers of strategy, flexibility. This is cool. So the next one is just your cryo missile, which we can just launch, and that's just going to freeze, do cryo damage. But we'll get a quick indication of that here. Very, very cool. Nice to see. Maybe we'll get some more down the track. This makes the missile silo something actually worthwhile building, mostly because of its homing missile. This is going to be very, very helpful. Now the range, I'm curious just to see the range on it. So we'll see how far we can fire it. Let's just fire it all the way to the end of the map. Yep, no worries. No, okay, can't get there. It does have a range limit, but that's not too bad. That's a really good kind of range. It would be nice to be able to get it all the way down to there just so you could like harvest all the stuff that gets dropped, but doesn't seem to be the case. I do want to see if we can actually mine this stuff here quickly, or the little tech points. I'm guessing that's something we should be able to mine or break down, whatever you want to call it. It does. That is cool. Okay, we'll keep moving on, but really that is a freaking wild one. So next we have the mine launcher, which has been optimized. So they've added the cryo launcher, deals more cryo damage to enemies, optimize the explosion effects of the launcher. Not too worried about this one. Who's really going to use the mine launcher, at least at this point. So there's been changes to the assembly for the Guardian, assembly site for the Guardian fabricator. That's what I was telling you about. We now have the ability to set rally points. So I can just set this guy a rally point, go Control Z, build one here, Control Z, and then pop one out. It will jump out, and then it's going to head to that rally point. So nice touch there. It does make it helpful. It would be cool to have some sort of way to auto build Guardians. They've also optimized the logic of the Guardians to reduce the situation where their firing lines are blocked by each other. So this is kind of a big change, but I think this is very fair considering all the additional damage boost we can get now with the CIWS. But they've reduced the range to 8,000. I believe it was 10,000 or the same. Yeah, I believe it was 10,000. Now they've just reduced it to 8,000. So if we click on the CIWS, they've reduced it to 8,000. But again, keep in mind, we do have the overload functionality, which can give it a plus 500% attack. So a bit of a give and take there. I think that's very reasonable. Makes a bit more sense too, because before it had the same range, I think, as the Hellfire turret, or very close to it. Another change is that the small artillery formation upgrade, which is your 30mm light turret, is unlocked by default. And the big thing is that they've decreased the power consumption from 20 to 5. So what it is the small so this here it is, the small artillery foundation. So the one we can deploy ourselves, they've reduced how much power it takes from you. So that's really nice to see, because you're going to be building a lot more of them now, given that your front line's going to be way over there, or at least attempting to be over there. So that makes sense. It's a nice change. And sorry, when I say power consumption, it's when you place down the actual building, which you need. For instance, these things, when you place down your little computer thing that allows you to build them, that's going to consume less power. So that's awesome, because 20 is quite steep, especially when you need like 10 of them. So this is an interesting one. They've increased the power converter by 25%. So we're going to get 25% more of, I think, everything, or 25% more power from everything that we convert. So that's kind of interesting, but not as it's kind of interesting because this will really help you in the early game. This is going to add another layer of decreasing the difficulty of running through your different tour modes and locations, because you'll be able to get a lot further a lot quicker because you're getting more energy. What we really need though for the end game is maybe an increase to the material converter, because you need so much material. They will retweak that, I guarantee you, because at the moment it definitely needs some reworking. Just a bit more material to balance out having to push a front line now is going to make perfect sense. But then again, that's where the challenge really lies. So we'll see what they do there. They've adjusted the effects of the core output. So there's two parts to this. So they've adjusted the radius of the X boost field to a maximum of 80 meters. We can clearly see the X boost field. So the X boost field, they've just reduced it. I believe it was higher before, now it's shorter. At least that's my understanding. The upper limit of the core outpost bonus for the defense level of characters in the X boost field has been adjusted to 500. So then I think my interpretation of this is that they've put in a hard cap or a soft cap on this. I think before you could get an unlimited defense boost from your X field, but not 100% certain. If you understand that, definitely let us know in the comment. They've added a clearer effect display. Not too certain what that is, but don't think we need to necessarily worry about that too much. So this next part is the character. So we'll jump out of the infinite mode and have a closer look at some of this character stuff. Okay, so now we have the character changes. So we're going to skim through this because a lot of this we can't really check out quite easily. It's going to take a while to be able to generate characters to get all this stuff. One of the new things is a new item called the rescue beacon. If you have this in your backpack when you die, or you didn't make it to the evac aircraft in time, so those are the situations where you've called for evac and for whatever reason you miss it as the time runs out. And if you have this rescue beacon and that happens, you'll still end up in the medical center. You won't lose your character and you won't lose your gear if it's insured. It's a nice little fail safe that you can be able to get a new item that can basically save your character. So I do like this. It's a much better way of doing it instead of just losing your character for good, because there's no way of getting them back. But with the rescue beacon, it's something you can definitely play towards. Now we have some brand new talents, which is really, really cool. So let's just take a look at one. So there's a new talent, the Joker. So I've got one here. So you can see here, joking, taunting reduces enemy defense. So if we click on this, it also has some extra side talents that we can upgrade. So we can taunting your enemies increases your defense, and then you can go taunting enemies increase attack by nearby allies. So there's quite a few of these sort of changes. Where it says new side talent, that is referring to the talent system in here. So it's a new one that they've added to either a new or an existing ability. One that sounds really cool is this Apex slider, which will come with some side talent. So the Blitz Dash, the slide will deal damage to enemies. Airborne Kick, slide deals knockback. So some really cool situations and side talents coming from these new abilities or side talents. We won't go through them all, but there is a stack for your characters. For instance, we got Medic. Reviving operators takes a lot less time. They've restored the feature of Trumpet with sound effects and features still being optimized. So now press the left button to blow the trumpet. So you can basically do that classic emote where you're playing the saxophone now. So that's really cool. They brought that back. Many of us are still hoping for a character rework where we can sort of pick and choose what talents we want to have on our squad members. Not sure how or where that will go, but it would be cool to have a bit more better control to make a really potent squad or character, because for a lot of the time you end up using one or two or a handful of them really. So this next change is to do with your tour mode, infinite mode, and these changes are very much welcome. So they have greatly changed the gaming experience of your windy desert and your border woodland. So these are your very first early stages. So the windy desert, borderland, as you can see here, and they've simplified the points of interest and increased the ratio of combat, and they've also reduced the pressure of exploration. We're just going to take a little look at the windy desert, borderland, see if we can notice anything different with the simplified the points of interest. Okay, so there's only 2 points of interest. Okay, so we've just loaded in and they have definitely simplified the points of interest. This is really nice to see. So they've just changed the point of interest. So before there was 2 sections, one was a building. It did take a lot more time and fiddly. This is much, much better. So this was a really smart move, only having one building, which requires a little bit more mucking around. So this is great to see. This probably came quite some time ago, but they've added nice little videos to actually explain what to do at this point, which is nice to see. Now, this is kind of funny. You can actually get on your little thing now. What the hell? Oh, shit. Okay, that was strange. I've never done that before. I didn't know you could do that. But at least that gives you an idea of what they mean by they've simplified things. So that's great to see. That's going to make it much more easy and accessible for new players. This other one's really going to help new players and increase the enjoyment of your early game. They've reduced the death penalty in the early stage to recover more materials and items. So they've greatly increased the proportion of items recovered by the fleet in a failed tour. In the Snowy Ruins, on difficulty level 2 or below. Now, it appears to me that this only applies to the Snowy Ruins on difficulty 2 or below. But basically what that means is when you fail or die during your mission, you will get a portion of your items will be recovered. Ones that you've already sent in your control tower. At least that's my understanding. They could be your backpack as well. I'm not 100% certain. So some of the adjustment to the Infinity Siege mode. They've reduced the initial difficulty of 2 maps in the Infinity Siege mode. So basically both maps, they've reduced the enemy HP growth and increase the defense growth after wave 80. This will be perfect for later once you get to wave 80. It kind of puts a bit of more of a, almost a soft cap on how difficult it will get progressively after that. Now, the next one is really cool. We get Cyrus is going to appear in your Infinity Siege mode in the hard one, which is the Darkest Before Dawn. I tested it out. Very cool. Does happen. And this is the other thing I was telling you about. The Promethean cores generate rewards at the end of the wave. So all of them will. All the ones you have open and control, those will drop gear. So you have the potential to get so much more. But it's going to be a lot harder to get to that point. What they've also done is added a ton of new hazards. So we're going to go and test, and I'm going to try to show you all these different hazards and talk them through. Now, I don't know if this came in previously, but now they've actually going to give you a recommended outpost value. That is really neat. It also gives you the recovery failure compensation ratio, the operation death compensation. This is very, very nice. I don't know when this came. I haven't looked at this Snow Ruins for quite some time, but this is superb. Now you know exactly what you need to be at to sort of be able to get through these different areas. Now, as you go up, you'll see that the recovery, failure, and death compensation ratios, which is what you'll get when you fail your recovery or when you die, it decreases. And then by the time you get into 3, it decreases again. And to 4, very, very little. But that is a fantastic little bit of pieces. Now, the great thing is it's also giving you some recommended components, because when you get to difficulty 3, that's when you're going to be facing the big boy, the Kronos, and you will need your artillery to handle it. Or a rifle. You could do it with a rifle, no worries. But it's good that they have these indications, because when I first went in here, you had no idea. You had to wing it. You'd come across it and you were like, shit, I don't have the right base for this. Then you'd get crushed and then you'd lose. And back then there was no compensation ratio. It was the old school brutal days. So now they've really tried to make this much more accessible and friendly to new players, or just to the general experience. Great thing to see here. Let's go have a look at these new hazards. Now, another cool thing that might be new, does look new to me, it says fully insured, meaning all the gear I have is fully insured, which is really nice to see, because you can just have a quick look at that and you'll be able to tell if something's not insured and do it manually, or wait for the prompt when you enter tool mode. I'm just grabbing a bunch of stuff because I'm going to convert this into material just to make this process quicker. Okay, so one of the new ones is this Gold Rush. So you'll obtain 3 extra groups of orange and above material upon completing recovery. So that's terrific. So your materials, which pretty much translates to your component region from memory. Now, it could be component region or technically anything, because it just says material. So from memory, I get a bit, not 100% sure, but now the downside is this will give your enemy armor of a plus 50% if you want to get the Gold Rush hazard. Next one's really cool. We'll see if we have it here. It's called the Gear Supply. This is really neat. So destroying all enemies on recovery day grants extra gear as a reward. Enemy armor is plus 50%. So quite a challenging one in early game to pull off, but the extra gear could really be worthwhile. We'll go in and see what that's like at the end of this. Now, we've got the Steel Bastion, but the new one is also Steel Bastion, which I think it's like a Mark II. So see how Gear Supply, there's 1 and 2. There is a Supply Bastion, which is, here it is. Okay, this is the one we're after. So the Steel Bastion, but this one is the legendary version. This is going to increase the amount of recovered orange quality or higher materials. And it says all. So this is going to be very potent for the looks of it. So do note, I was looking at the wrong Gear Supply. This is the new one here, Gear Supply 3. Destroy all enemies on recovery day. Grants extra gear as a reward. Can't remember if I got that right, but just so you know, there is the Gear Supply 3, and that's the new one. So one thing that's kind of huge is they've added a batch of support facility incident rewards. So my understanding of this is now we can get as a support drop, where we can place a random tower down as a reward from some of the incidents, is you can now get a Hellfire, a bullet array, 406 cruiser cannon, and the electromagnetic Triforce artillery. So I don't know if I understand that correctly, but that's wild if that's the case. Can you imagine getting an extra electromagnetic Triforce artillery? That would be nuts. They also have readjusted the combination and intensity of existing recovery day hazards. So it will be a bit hard for us to understand without doing some side-by-side testing ourselves. But it looks like they've adjusted some of the intensity, so some of the difficulty may be increased or decreased. But let's go have a look and let's see if we can notice the difference, particularly with this gear supply Mark III, I think it is, where we get the extra gear as a reward. Now, we didn't get to see Red Blaze, obtain 3 extra group of orange, and I believe Red Blaze, this might actually meant to be red. Obtain 3 extra groups of red and above materials upon completing the recovery, but the enemy gets an 100% armor increase. So that's brutal, but maybe it is orange, but to me, it's called Red Blaze, so it kind of makes sense if that would only be for the desert mode. So basically what they've done is they've given us another huge opportunity to increase our loot, but at the risk of some pretty damaging enemy buffs, which will really pay off if you can pull through it. And here we are in the snow, and you can tell we are at that point where we can build the core bases. Now, what seems to be interesting is that the core bases have to be unlocked. The first one in front of you first, and then you can actually expand to this one. So we'll test that theory out, but that looks like the case. And note how the pods actually land right on top of the Promethean core. Okay, so we've got enough so we can upgrade this, and then it does unlock the facility. So just something to note there. It's good to test this out, see what it's actually like. Okay, so I've been doing a bit of playing around, and all I can say is that these new hazard cards make it so much more difficult. So the enemy becomes super tanky, and with all these stacked, it just gets kind of crazy. Now, if you were to do this in desert, these new risks, these new incidents are going to make it challenging. So it's going to be a cool little addition for sure. You're going to have to be a bit more careful picking some of these or getting some of these hazards in your snow and early desert. You'll have to keep an eye out for it because it does make a difference. Okay, so I've gotten a supply drop that I finished. Now, I'm guessing this is going to be full with the gear. So this is the evac, and oh yeah, shit. Oh my God, you get a ton of gear. Whoa, okay. And there's another one, I think, as well. So which one was that? That is, so gear supply, destroying all enemies on recovery day grants extra gear as reward. Hell, how cool is that? So all this good stuff you get, this will help. If you can manage it, could be a really cool one to get. Now, there is another supply drop from another card, which I'm guessing is the lower version. Notice on the map, it is a yellow. It's marked yellow. So that's good to know that it's a part of the card. And yeah, this is the lesser version, or the Mark 1 or 2 of that same card. So really cool to see. We've got some awesome new hazards, and it really does make it a lot more challenging, and it adds some really cool benefits. So especially early game, this is going to be brutal if you can pull it off. Definitely got some duplication of quite a few items here, which is nice to see. Bit hard to work out exactly what. Here we go. Shivers. So there you go. That's the duplication right there, which was, so we had the Gold Rush. We also had the Steel Bastion, doubles the component region of a legendary above. So there you go. Definitely some very cool rewards. Obviously, you'd probably target it a bit better, but just an example. But tons of gold as well. That's definitely a crazy recovery for a quick loot in snow. Huge. Okay, so we're getting close to the end-ish. We're up to the system changes. So they've changed the core gun display. So basically, we'll be able to tell it'll be just better displayed on your weapon. And also when you're in multiplayer, it'll display what the setup of the gun better, is my understanding. I haven't tested it, but you get the idea. Also, the injecting has been optimized and simplified to require only a left click. We'll just quickly check that out. Okay, so we've got the modifiers in. Just also note that, whoa, hold on. Oh, what? How much better is this menu? Whoa, damn, thank you. Oh, this is huge. You can even filter, remove the filter. Wow, okay, this is very helpful. Okay, let's just pick a random gun. Yeah, they've completely reworked this. What happens if I, whoa, okay, so we can, what does this do? Oh, what? Okay, it made so many changes. I don't know where this is listed, but this new UI is amazing. We can see everything clear as day now. And what about when we go on to the actual, oh, wow, this is super helpful. So they've completely redesigned this. This is going to be such a huge time saver. It just looks nice too. And now we can just click on one and it's selected. We can click on it again, click on another one. This is a huge improvement. You can just click on this and there it is. That is terrific. Cool thing is we can also ensure it right here as well. Very nice. This is so much better. Look, I'm so pumped for this. This is terrific. Anyway, enough of saying it's terrific and it's awesome, but you understand what I mean when you muck around with weapons. This is going to be much nicer. We're just going to quickly jump the gun a bit here because they've done some backpack optimization, which we'll come back to. But I really want to check out this store optimization because I know a lot of you have been after this, and I have too, is we can now bulk buy. This is going to save so much time. Here we go into the shop and we can go shift mass buy. So see how we go shift? It changes the amount to what it would be if we click this and went max. See how it's got 9600 there. If we unclick this and just hit shift again, 9600. Awesome. So now we can just go shift click and buy it. So this is going to save a lot of time for sure. Now it's still not perfect. It's However, it's still not ideal for the end game where you do end up really cashed up. In some instances, at least, it would be cool just to have a buy all where you just buy everything just because that saves time. Even with this addition of the mass buy, I would probably still be using an auto clicker to perform basically a buy all of everything because I like to sort of save up to about $1 million. Come to the store and then just buy a ton of stuff. But this is a huge requested thing, so at least this will speed things up. This would be great for the mid and early game. So definitely we're continuing to see this shop improve and get very close to how we'd sort of like it. And also we have a hotkey for refresh, which is really nice. We can just hit R and it's going to refresh it. No pop-up, just boom, straight away. Really, really highly recommended feature. So I'm so glad that has been implemented. Now, the only downside to all the shops at the moment is there has been no changes to the other shops in terms of quantity. We can still only get like a few of things of metal slabs, like 5 metal slabs. I mean, I don't know. They kind of need to maybe apply some of the same logic to these other shops, but at least we can still mass buy, which will still be very helpful. Oh, and we've got a revive marker. So this is the one we were talking about before. We can buy one of them. So do note you can buy it from the shop now. That's awesome. Costs 2,000, so they ain't cheap, but that's going to save you some heartache and pain. So the mass buy also works with the mass sell. We can just hit shift and sell everything. So that's really neat. We can just go boom and it's gone. Very, very nice and easy. Definitely love these shop changes. That's a big one. So we've already covered this one. If you are deploying and you haven't insured your gear, you'll get prompted to do so. That's a huge win. So we covered this before, so we won't go over it, but it's just the one where they've basically given you a rough idea of the recommended components and how much your outpost should be valued before entering certain areas. The only trouble with that is that when you have certain hazard cards, it really changes the difficulty a ton. So a bit hard to calculate, but I'll try to test some of this down the track. We've already covered, they got the new encyclopedia, the wiki system that has been overhauled. They've added tutorials, support links, so a much more robust wiki system, which is great. They've definitely completely changed the Xen quality display. We will just head back to the research center and check the, it's called Xen Reforge, Xenium, Xen, whatever, but they said they've made some changes here. Now this looks much nicer to me. Let's just do a common Reforge and let's see if there is any difference here. Okay, it does look a little bit nicer. I think they have made some changes here too. Oh, here we go. Yeah, so it does look much nicer. Gosh, they've done so much to this. Unreal. So they did make some changes to the backpack as well. So pressing B at the base will directly open the backpack of the squad member deployed during the last deployment. So I'm not 100% sure what this is, but we'll just have a look, see if we can figure it out. Oh, okay. What the hell? Okay, so pressing B at the base. So if you're in the base in any kind of capacity and you press B, can bring up the squad management backpack menu. I don't know if this is new. I might have not used this screen too much at all. Got some very dodgy settings right now. I've been mucking around. I've lost some stuff, so never mind what's currently equipped. Yeah, so this is new. My apologies for the confusion. This is definitely new. So now we can just press B, opens a backpack. It will open the backpack of the squad member deployed during the last deployment. So keep that in mind, but this is going to be really nice and easy. We got the info where we can look at the stats, backpack, the traits. Basically brings you up to that squad management screen, which is terrific. Now the batch cell, it'd be really nice if we could get the purple and orange, because you might only want the red, but that's just like a nice to have. But here we can just sell everything just like normal. So the backpack interface is supportive of the batch selling, which we just tested. We've got the quick relocate as well, which is shift and click, and then we have the double click to equip. Yeah, just brilliant. Really nice. We won't go too much more into this. So another change, which many of you who are focused on weapons may not like, because it's sort of a nerf. You got your chain has been reduced from 18 to 10, so definitely a nerf. And same with your mighty swing, it has been nerfed from 20% to 10%. I know a lot of people like this, maybe because it was too overpowered. I haven't mucked around with too much weapons yet. It's coming. So onto the other adjustments. So they've done a lot of performance and fixing of crashes and issues. They've redesigned some of the sounds for your core tower scan gloves. But one of the biggest thing is they've added a setting for item self-illumination intensity. So this is going to be really, really nice. We'll give an example of this quickly. Okay, so we've jumped in, and if we do a scan, and you'll see some of the items here. Now we'll just go into the settings, because this is how we can change the appearance. If we go into gameplay, I believe it's in gameplay. Yeah, item glow. So we've got strong glow right now. If we go weak glow, a little bit hard to tell the difference, at least from this. Maybe we need to actually go up to it and have a look. Let's go have a look closer. Okay, so we'll look at this thing. I'm guessing this is considered an item. So if we go back into the settings, gameplay, go back to strong glow. I mean, maybe it looks a bit stronger. It's a bit hard to tell from my angle. Let me know in the comments if you understand exactly what they mean. That's my understanding at least. Yeah, so it says here it's increasing self-illumination to make items easier identifiable. Could be because I have a reshade on. It's a bit harder to tell, but a really cool thing that you can flick on, and hopefully that will help you identify and see things better. We've already covered this, but in the turret config, you do see the different enemy types now displayed as icons, and we have the addition of the apostle. There is this removed the hide support pack. I'm not too sure what that is about. Let me know in the comments if you do. Now this one I do want to check. The reduced space occupied by all portable support facilities, because they took up so much space. So let's go see how much they take up now. Okay, so let's see if the dire situation still gives you the portable systems to then deploy, because that would be really cool if it does. That's where I used to get all mine, by just going and getting them through the tours. We can see here as well that while we're here, the core is also 200 material and 40 power. So it is different between the different infinite modes, the different tours. So a lot of work has gone into here to implement this. So really nice to see. But they have removed the forward artillery. So again, this completely changes the infinite mode. Love it. It's cool how the infinite mode, the core bases are locked till you claim your first one. So it's like a slow expansion. Yeah, unfortunately, we can't really test it because this is bugged out, saying that we cannot basically build this because there's an enemy present, but there is nothing around. So anyway, we won't be able to test that, but it's good to see that the support facilities will be much smaller. Now we won't go over all the bug fixes, but we'll just highlight a couple of the really important ones. The main one just being fix several of the issues that crashed. We won't go through all of these because there's quite a few here. They're, semi-important. I don't know how often these ones occurred because I didn't really encounter pretty much any of these that I know of, bar the first one where I'd get crashes. Definitely seems a lot. The stability definitely seems to increase, and the performance. So that pretty much covers the whole patch. Now there's other little bits and pieces that you'll notice for sure. There's a lot here, but we tried to cover it all, and I hope you got something out of this. If you did, please consider liking, subscribing. Goes a long way. And tell me if you're pumped for this patch, because this one is huge and it's just a breath of fresh air. So much has changed and improved. It is a different game. But thanks for your time and support. I'll catch you next time. Peace.